So we're now leaving Baltimore.
Clear Island is the outermost of the islands protecting Baltimore Bay. It's part of the country's Gaeltacht, the Irish-speaking regions, and the most southerly inhabited land in Ireland. I'd wanted to go ashore and explore, but the tiny harbour was crammed full of boats, and mooring in the approaches would have hindered the ferry. So we contented ourselves with a drone exploration instead. It's an island of steep hillsides covered with heather, gorse and wildflowers, and spectacular cliffs.
Ireland has some spectacular lighthouses, some beautiful lighthouses, but this is the most iconic, the Fastnet. It's rare to be able to get out here. It's right out in the Atlantic. Today we've even managed to get the drone up. What a day.
Standing proud 8 miles offshore, it's impossible to resist the lure of the Fastnet Rock. It's Ireland's most southerly lighthouse, and the last part of Ireland that 19th century Irish emigrants escaping the potato famine would have seen as they sailed hoping for new lives in America. It was an essential stop on the way to our next port of call. The only boat to venture out here today, Cessienne, in the background, is totally dwarfed by the giant structure. From there, we headed for our next planned stopover, Lawrence Cove, the only fully serviced marina on this stretch of coast. The small family-run marina is on Bear Island. The cheery greeting we got summed it up in a sentence. When I said I'd called here over 10 years ago, I was told, well, you'll find nothing's changed. There's a lovely tranquil feel to the whole sparsely populated 10-kilometre long island. The 2 dolphins that spent an hour circling close by the pontoon, feeding on a shoal of fish, seemed to share the vibe, just getting on with business and seeming oblivious to us, watching them from just a few yards away. The ferry to the mainland runs from close by, and there are even occasional buses from Castletownbere to Cork, making the marina a good consideration if you want to base your boat in the region for any length of time. Heading west through the strait, between the island and the mainland, we passed Castletownbere itself, one of Ireland's main fishing harbours. In fact, it's the largest fishing port in the country, and claims to be one of the safest natural harbours in the world. The seas off Southwest Island are rich with life, and a great fishing ground, not only for huge ocean-going trawlers, but also for the small inshore boats. Outside the strait, the coast is rugged and wild. Cutting through Dursey Sound, which separates Dursey Island from the mainland, you pass under an unusual feature, Ireland's only cable car. Used as much for transporting livestock as visitors to and from the island, it's a great experience. How often do you get a chance to cross part of the Atlantic by cable car? On the northern shore of the Kenmare River lies Sneem Harbour, a beautiful lonely mooring between tree-shrouded shores.
Well, we've come up the Kenmare River to one place that I've always wanted to anchor and moor. It's Sneem Harbour. There are 3 visitors moorings here, and as you can see, although it's the middle of July, the height of the season, it's been great weather all week, not a soul on them apart from us. Sneem Harbour is actually about 1.5 miles away from the village of Sneem itself. You can walk, it's about 2 miles each way, or you can go up the Sneem River. The only problem with the river is that it is tidal, so it dries out totally at low tide. I'm not sure how much water we're going to have in there now. We're about an hour ahead of high tide, so we're going to go in, check the place out, but make sure that we can actually come back down and not get stranded up there. It's also very different to anywhere else we've stayed in Ireland. Not only is it quiet, there's no town or harbour here, it's surrounded by trees. Oh, there's the river. It's surrounded by trees, which is very unusual on this coast. Very unusual indeed.
The town's a great place to pick up supplies, have a couple of pints, and of course, say hello to the goat man.
Well, this has been a very special day for me. It's been the culmination of a dream I had some 50 years ago, and a promise I made to myself that one day I would actually come into this harbour with my own boat. Because when I was 17, I came to Ireland for the first time with a couple of friends, and we stayed just here in the boathouse alongside the pier, and it's then that my love affair with the ocean started. I'd never really seen the ocean until then. We'd had a few family holidays, but I never really got acquainted with it. And here, I just fell in love with the sea. I learnt to scuba dive here. I borrowed some diving equipment from an old fisherman who actually was diving illegally for crayfish, and I taught myself to dive right underneath where we are in the boat now. I got a summer job on the tourist boats, taking people out to the Skellig Islands. And I also discovered Guinness. I discovered Irish music and singing. And I had an amazing time. It was the formative time of my life, really, because I guess if I hadn't fallen in love with the ocean here, nothing else that happened would have followed. I wouldn't have moved to Cornwall, I wouldn't have been into boats, I wouldn't have been into scuba diving. So it was really the formative time of my life. You could almost say that my life really started when I was 17, and it really started that summer here in Derrynane Harbour. And when I was here, I always said to myself that one day, I would come back here in my own boat. And it's taken 50 years, and I've realised that dream. And the conditions couldn't have been better. Glass calm, beautiful. What a way to realise a dream.
The place has lost none of its charm and magic for me, and as evening arrived and the visitors disappeared, tranquility again fell over the harbour, and it was time to make a poignant visit to my closest friend from those halcyon days, who now lies in the graveyard on Abbey Island.
It's a very low tide. It's never the easiest of harbours, but at the moment it's probably the spring tide, so it's going to be a real squeeze to get out, I think. Yeah, it's about as shallow as it gets. I think we just have to inch our way out. So many rocks exposed that you very rarely see at all. But they're there.